Good evening. Welcome to Satellite Showtime. I'm Pat Olson. It was good to see a lot of you at Sat Expo 85 in Denver, which was sponsored by Channel Guide. But for those of you unable to attend the show, we'll take you there tonight. The Sheraton Denver Tech Center was the site of Sat Expo 85. Tonight's Satellite Showtime will be devoted entirely to that show. You'll get to see a number of the exhibits, and we'll talk with some of the exhibitors and speakers there. But before we get underway with that, we want to tell you what our viewers have been thinking. Do you have any questions or comments about our program?
Just keep it up. You're covering the spectrum pretty well.
So we just enjoy your program in general and just wanted to participate in your survey.
We want to thank you for all the phone calls you've been making to us. We've now heard from all 48 contiguous states, plus the District of Columbia and 6 Canadian provinces. And if you haven't called yet, we have an incentive for you to call tonight. We haven't heard from Mexico, Alaska, Hawaii, or Prince Edward Island, Quebec, Alberta, or New Brunswick. So if you're from one of those places, call us collect. The numbers to call collect are 608-647-4246 and 608-647-8902 that you see on the screen here. That's only for people in Mexico, Alaska, Hawaii, and Prince Edward Island, Quebec, Alberta, and New Brunswick. Sorry we can't take collect calls from all of you. When the operator asks who's calling, state the place you're calling from, not your name. That's if you're from Mexico, Alaska, Hawaii, and the Canadian provinces we mentioned. There's a toll-free number that's not collect for other people in the 48 contiguous states, excluding Wisconsin. That number is 1-800-826-5285. And of course, you can call our other numbers at 1-608-647-4246 and 1-608-647-8902. We'll flash those numbers on the screen periodically tonight. Coming up on Satellite Showtime, scrambling and zoning updates.
Welcome to the world of satellite TV opportunities, the magazine that brings you inside information on successful marketing and sales techniques, details the latest in new technology, and lets you see how other dealers increase their sales and profits.
Satellite TV Opportunities magazine is the marketing techniques magazine for satellite TV dealers. Our single purpose is to help dealers increase their sales and their profits through improved marketing techniques.
Satellite TV Opportunities offers insight into the latest trends in marketing, profiles thriving businesses, and surveys what TVRO buyers are really after. Subscribe today by calling 1-800-922-2812. For $25, you get a full year subscription to Satellite TV Opportunities, a magazine full of new ideas that will help your business thrive. 1-800-922-2812. Call today. MasterCard and Visa accepted.
Since last week, there have been no major developments in the two big issues facing the satellite industry, scrambling and zoning. Regarding scrambling, your U.S. representatives are still waiting to hear your input on two bills before them. H.R. 1769 calls for a 2-year moratorium on scrambling, and H.R. 1840 calls for a marketing plan for programming in the event for scrambling. And as far as zoning goes, the FCC is expected to act favorably on a proposed rule that would preempt zoning in cases where that zoning is overly restrictive. Now on with Sat Expo 85 with its keynote speaker, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot from this man. I'm speaking now with Nicholas Johnson, who is the keynote speaker for Sat Expo 85. Mr. Johnson is a former commissioner with the FCC, and among his other accomplishments, the author of the book, How to Talk Back to Your Television Set. Also, he was a host of the PBS series The New Tech Times and a commentator for national public radio stations. Also, he's a visiting professor at the University of Iowa. Welcome to Satellite Showtime.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to ask you to what degree or why you are interested in the satellite industry.
Well, what's not to be interested in the satellite industry? I mean, if you want to keep up with the passions of your times and the things that are happening, satellites are what are going on. I write a syndicated column about electronics in general, where I cover computers, telephone company, everything that's going on. And so satellites are one of the subjects that I have to cover, and so it'd be natural that I'd be at Sat Expo anyway, just to keep myself informed as to what's going on. Also, as a radio amateur, I'll be building my own satellite send and receive station to operate as part of my amateur radio station. So I have a general interest in satellites as a result of that, since radio amateurs also use communication satellites to talk with other amateurs around the world.
Won't the send and receive station be awfully expensive?
Cost me $500, which is cheaper than a TVRO, so that's one of the advantages of being a radio amateur. You get there about 20 years before everybody else, and it's a lot cheaper. But I suspect that, like so much other radio amateur experimentation, it won't be long where your viewers here will be operating their own sending stations as well as their own receiving stations. If you think of how startled they would be 20 years ago to be told that they would someday have a device that at that point sold for $3 million, namely a satellite dish, that they would someday have a $3 million satellite dish in their backyards, they would have thought you mad. And yet here today they're all watching us with, or most of them watching us with satellite dishes. So I would say the day is not too far along when others will also have their own sending stations from their homes.
What do you think the biggest misunderstanding is about the satellite industry?
Well, I think it depends on who you're talking about. I think that those who are watching this program and have their own satellite dish and receiver and know the need for amplification and how signals bounce off satellites and so forth have a level of knowledge that's substantially greater than, say, most of the readers of my column who do not yet have dishes or have neighbors with dishes. So as with so many other areas of electronics, there is a tremendous gap in the knowledge that people have. Some people are very knowledgeable because they have the equipment, they've been working with it for a while. Other people have never seen it, never heard of it, totally ignorant. It makes it difficult when I do public lectures around the country to know exactly where to peg the talk, because you usually have all of those people in the audience.
You're a former FCC commissioner. Among people who are involved with the satellite industry, how do you think they should approach the FCC?
Well, for starters, I think they should approach the FCC. When I was a commissioner, I felt that some of the most effective representation came not from trade associations, not from professional lawyers from New York or Washington, but just ordinary citizens coming in and telling their story and what they were concerned about, whether it was violence in television or need for better children's programming or local zoning boards in cities deciding that people who don't have dishes decide that people who do have something ugly in their yard that ought to be taken out. So maybe that's something they'd want to write the FCC about, or write their senator, a member of Congress, and become involved in that way.
How likely do you think that will pass?
Oh, the FCC take over the antenna business? I think there's a chance of it. The FCC has preempted other areas that one would normally think would have been left to the cities and states. So there certainly is precedent for it in this instance. Whether they will do that remains to be seen, or, quite frankly, if they do it, what kind of standards they'll come up with. We may end up wishing we'd left it with the cities, but then that's always the risk you take with a roll of the dice at the FCC.
And you're talking about the proposal that would preempt local zoning ordinances.
That's
Is
correct.
that the one?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned during your keynote address about unity. The consumers should stand with the manufacturers, dealers, and distributors in order to get their way. How important do you think this really is?
Well, I think that the consumers need to know that their interests often will be different from those of the manufacturers and the dealers and the distributors. And when their interests are different, they need to have their own organizations that will represent consumer interests. And I think as the number of satellite dishes goes from 500,000 to 1 million to 2 million to 10 million, there will be consumer organizations growing up to represent consumer interests. But oftentimes the interests of the consumer and the manufacturers and the dealers and distributors really are the same. I think it's important the consumer not be confused and think they're the same when they're really not. But when their interests are the same, then there is a tremendous advantage for all of them to be able to go before Congress or the FCC arm in arm and say we're all in agreement about this. They have a much greater likelihood of getting action out of government when that is the case. And it's just a shame that there hasn't been more organizing and more cooperation to that end in the past.
What do you think the Society for Private and Commercial Earth Stations, SPACE, can do about this?
Well, I think they ought to they should affirmatively seek out the so-called public interest organizations that exist in the media area. Telecommunications Research and Action Center in Washington, the telecommunications communications center in New York that's run as a part of the Office of Communication in the United Church of Christ. Organizations like that. Action for Children's Television, whatever. I mean, groups that exist that are concerned about the quality of television for American people who do not have manufacturing interests or whatever. Seek those groups out, find areas where there really is a common interest, and then work with them in presenting a united front. Joining in, for example, I mentioned to the group, the radio amateurs have an organization called AMSAT, the Amateur Satellite Corporation. Obviously, it's very underfunded. I mean, amateurs are by definition not paid for what they're doing. It's a hobby, and most of us are not independently wealthy. We don't have a lot of money to spend on it. And I think for an organization like Space to, come and support some of the things that AMSAT is trying to do, and AMSAT can help support Space and some of the things it's trying to do. The American Radio Relay League, the organization of radio amateurs, is, for example, supporting what is also the industry position with regard to FCC preemption of zoning for antennas. This is an example of where groups like this can work together.
And you think Canadian people should be included in this?
Oh,
in all
sure.
of this unity?
Canadians are my favorite people.
They'll be pleased to hear that.
Oh, it's true. I've never met, like Will Rogers, I cannot say I've never met a man I didn't like, but I can say I never met a Canadian I didn't like. So I would hope they would join in with us while maintaining Canadian content and culture. You see, when I was on the commission, I went to Canada and advocated that they should have a limit on the amount of American television brought into Canada, because they have such wonderful Canadian traditions and culture, and we benefit from that here to the south in the States. And the Canadian Film Board has done some wonderful things over the years, including training a good many of our filmmakers in Hollywood. So I like to see the Canadians maintain some independence from the states to the south. But when we can cooperate, I think that's a nice thing to do too.
One more question. You mentioned many more people will have send and receive stations. What other things do you see for the future of the satellite industry?
Well, what more do you want? I thought that was pretty dramatic. No, I think there'll be more satellites. I think there'll be more uses, more dishes. I mean, going from, when I started in this business, we had one satellite and 3 dishes. Now we've got over 1 million dishes. That's a pretty big change. I think we'll continue to see more of that, more kind of narrow band, narrow casting as it's called, picking smaller audiences, special uses. I would like to see the time when the community programmers who now program for cable channels are programming satellite channels, where people, you see, have been so mesmerized and worked over and told that they don't amount to anything, that television is something that's done to you. You should sit there and watch it and do what TV says and don't touch that dial, and you don't amount to anything as a human being except in terms of the products you buy and drape yourself with and so forth. You've got to uneducate people from that fraudulent view of themselves. Tell them that they do amount to something. As Jesse Jackson chants with his parishioners, I am somebody. The television is something they can do. They can pick up a camera and make a picture and send it out on a cable community channel, participate in developing a community dialogue in that way, and in the future doing that by means of satellite channels. I think that would be quite exciting.
I want to thank you, Nicholas Johnson, who is a former FCC commissioner. We'll be right back.
For a limited time only, you can receive Channel Guide for a special reduced rate. For just $9, you will receive 8 weeks of Channel Guide, a month of Galaxy One magazine, and the all-new 1985 Whole Earth Station catalog. That's a $20 value for just $9. Then close check and address, and you'll start receiving the original grid format for satellite TV. Due to this low price, no phone orders may be taken. Write today. Channel Guide, Department 808A, P.O. Box 1633, Englewood, Colorado, 80150. Do it today.
Several weeks ago, Home Box Office, or HBO, came out with a plan to service the home satellite market. TVRO owners would have to buy a decoder and then pay $12.95 for one service or $19.95 for 2 services every month for that programming. At SAT Expo 85 in Denver, I was able to speak with HBO's Vice President of Network Operations, Robert Sitter. When do you foresee as a date to begin scrambling?
Well, we've already begun scrambling, Pat. our various networks, the east and west feeds of Home Box Office and of Cinemax, in a testing mode. And once those tests are complete, then we'll be scrambling the networks on a part-time basis until we are ready to supply our service to backyard dish TVRO owners. And that date is dependent upon the availability of consumer equipment that MACOM will be producing. We anticipate that to be sometime in the fourth quarter of '85.
Will a person be able to have one descrambler for all programming?
Yes, a person will. We hope that's going to happen. And really the answer to that question lies in the decisions made by other programmers. We've decided to use a computer clearinghouse that MACOM is establishing so that any other programmers who elect to use their technology and this computer center later can plug into it and run their business independently, but have all the data aggregated so that the consumer only needs one descrambler. And MACOM is offering their computer center to other programmers so that the marketplace, the consumers, will only need one descrambler. If other programmers don't avail themselves of this, then there could be a situation where the consumers would require more than one descrambler if they wanted more than one programming service.
Under the HBO plan, a person would buy a descrambler, also pay $12.95 a month for one service of HBO and $19.95 a month for two services, HBO and Cinemax. Some people say that is far too much.
The fees that you quoted, $12.95 for HBO or for Cinemax, or $19.95 for both, are the prices that we've decided to establish as the price that we would offer our service to home TVRO owners who reside outside of cable franchise areas, and they would buy our service directly from us. Inside a cable franchise area, a home TVRO owner who desired our service would order it from the local cable operator, and the local cable operator would establish the price for our service inside the franchise areas.
And in sparsely populated areas, who would install the HBO equipment?
Well, the equipment wouldn't be the HBO equipment.
Correct.
The equipment really is the TVRO itself, the receiver, and the descrambler. MACOM, through its network of TVRO dealers and distributors and retailers, as well as the cable operators within their franchise areas, will be making the equipment available. So if someone lives in a rural area, they'll have ready access to the equipment from probably the same sources that they bought the home TVRO.
Okay. Finally, one last question. You're being an HBO person. You're sort of stuck in the middle. On one side are the people who have not appreciated a lot about HBO, the home TVRO people. Also, on the other side, are you feeling pressure from the cable groups at all, cable companies, to come up with a plan for the home satellite market?
Well, we like to think that everyone appreciates HBO, just if for no other reason, getting this thing called satellite television started back in 1975, and starting the ability for satellite delivery of programming. I think what has been so difficult and has taken us the time that it has to come up with a plan of how we are going to offer our services is that we needed to find the method that would offer our services to owners of home TVROs that was the most cost-effective and efficient method of offering services, recognizing the relationships that we have with cable operators within their franchise areas. They've built our business.
Are you tired of monthly inaccurate guides that are big and bulky and about as much fun to use as a city phone book? How about tabloids with hard-to-read print, incomplete movie listings that are about as easy to use as a road map? or newspaper guides with confusing grids that fall apart in your hands. There is an alternative. Onset, the easy-to-read, easy-to-use weekly programming guide with more movies and sports. Best of all, Onset is only $39. That's right, 52 issues for only $39. But don't take our word for it. We'll send you a free copy of Onset, and you can judge for yourself. And if you're a dealer, ask about our dealer program. Make your customers happy and make money. Call Onset now. Toll free 1-800-438-2020 or write Onset, Box 2347, Shelby, North Carolina, 28150. Onset, you've seen the rest, now try the best.
Don't forget to call us if you have a question or a comment about the satellite industry. Our toll-free number is 1-800-826-5285, and we have two other numbers. They are 608-647-4246 and 608-647-8902. I'm talking now with Bill Pearson, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing for Pico Products Incorporated of Liverpool, New York. And Bill, I was wondering why you came to Denver for the Sat Expo 85.
We've just introduced a new product, which is our 4x7 rectangular antenna for the home TVRO market. Pico itself has been involved in the cable industry for about the past 12 years. And this is our real first entry into the home satellite market. And we introduced the product 45 days ago in Las Vegas, and this is a follow-up show to the introduction. And we're here to sell product.
What kind of response at this show have you had to your new dish?
We've had an excellent response. It's different than Las Vegas, so I've only got two shows to compare it against, but the response has been excellent. It just has. It's unique. We think it fills a void in the industry, and we're just really excited about it.
Why did you choose a booth or a display such as this at the show?
We wanted, number one, to display the product. That was the primary focus of the booth, was to have the antenna here in the booth. Secondly, we wanted a booth that was open, where people could very easily have access to it to walk in and walk out. We have a couple point-of-sale displays where we have a live feed coming from the parking lot. And we also have another point-of-sale display where we have an installation tape. We've produced a 55-minute installation tape on the antenna, which is another part of our dealer support program.
Do you plan to attend other shows?
We'll be in Tulsa. We're going to, I think surprising to some people, we're going to take the kid to the NCTA in Las Vegas, and then we'll also be in Tulsa and Nashville at this point.
Hope to see you there.
Well, hope to see you there.
Thank you for talking with us. Bill Pearson of Pico Products Incorporated of Liverpool, New York. I'm talking now with Chris Bratcher, who is National Sales Director with ArcFinder, and that is based in Rogers, Arkansas.
Right.
Why did you come to Denver, Chris?
Well, we felt it was important to show in the West Coast area because we have very few distributors here, and we have some dealers that are purchasing our product and having it transported in from Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, places like that. So we felt we needed a larger dealer and distributor base in this part of the country.
Can you tell me why you have the display you do here?
You mean this particular display? Well, it's easy to set up, for one thing. And this is a display that we take to most of our dealer seminars and things like that. So we do a lot of dealer and distributor support. We do the URSA program, and this is the type of thing that we can come in, we can set up, do a good display, do a good presentation of our product, and then be gone and go on to the next demonstration we're doing.
How has your response been here at Denver?
I think it's been pretty good, really. We've talked to a lot of people. We've found a lot of people that are using our product here, and a lot of the distributors are very interested in our products.
Specifically, what is your product?
Right now, we manufacture actuators and controls. We also have the new Horizon mount, which we'll have in production very shortly. We have several new products. Our actuator and controls that we do manufacture now, we're getting ready to do a cosmetic facelift on. We will have a complete system very shortly.
Chris, before this tape started rolling, you were telling me you have a rather interesting background as far as how you got into the satellite business. Can you tell the people about that?
Well, I got into the business as a hobby, At the time, I was a veterinarian. In December of 1979, a friend of mine talked me into buying 3 systems so we could get his and mine wholesale, and we sold the other one. Well, that turned into a disaster because we made money on the one we sold, so we bought 3 more, and since then we've been involved in it pretty heavily, and as you can see, now we're in the manufacturing end of it.
And now it's not just a hobby, and it's a full-time business.
It's a very definite full-time business.
I want to thank you so much for joining me on Satellite Showtime, Chris Bratcher of ArcFinder. I'm talking now with Sam Rosenzweig, who is Vice President of Sales and Marketing. Is that right?
That's correct.
With Kenwood Electronics, and that is based where?
Los Angeles.
How has the reception been so far at the SAT Expo 85?
Excellent. Excellent.
What kind of people have come up to you?
Dealers, distributors, other manufacturers, people that are involved in the cable industry, just about everybody in this industry. They've been coming up wanting to know, why is Kenwood getting into this business? How do we fit into this industry? What are we going to do different, and how are we going to help the industry?
What is Kenwood, and why are you getting into this industry?
Kenwood is one of the largest and oldest Japanese manufacturers of high-fidelity equipment, audio, video, car stereo, and ham two-way radios. We've been in this country 25 years, and we found out that this is an industry that's going to explode. It's here to stay. So a year ago, we made a decision to get into it.
What kind of questions do people ask when they come to the booth to visit you?
Why Kenwood? And basically the answer is, it's a natural for us. We've been doing this for 25 years, and as you can see in the system over here, it fits perfectly in with our audio-video system. And basically, this direction of the future. Eventually, it's going to be, excuse me, a complete system for home entertainment.
Do you plan on attending more shows?
Absolutely. We're going to the CES show in Chicago. We're going to go to Tulsa. We're going to go to Nashville. And as many as are out there, we're going to go to them.
I want to thank you so much for joining me on Satellite Showtime this afternoon.
My pleasure.
Sam Rosenzweig of Kenwood Electronics. I'm talking now with Bruce Lawyer, who is the product manager for the Maycom Group. Welcome to Satellite Showtime.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Can you tell me why you came to Denver?
We came here to primarily drum up some new business for commercial installations, primarily hotels, motels, condominium type things, and also be a support for our distributors in the consumer world.
How have you been received so far here?
It's been a steady type show. It's nothing overwhelming like you get with the big national shows, but for a local show, it's been very well.
What kind of products do you have here at the booth?
I have on this side of the booth our consumer product, which includes our home receivers and our tracking unit. I have on the other side a commercial rack, which we supply to distributors and dealers who are interested in putting in a hotel system.
Are you planning other shows to exhibit your works?
Yes, we are getting ready right now back at the office to show at the National Cable Show in Las Vegas, first week in June.
And when a person comes to your booth and is interested, what do you want to point out the most?
The reception, the fantastic video quality that we get out of our receivers. That is probably the biggest selling feature. We ran into a little bit of problem yesterday during the high windstorm and lost our big antenna. So we are having to make do with our 1.8 meter, which is the smallest antenna we put into the consumer market. And we think we've got a very good picture.
If a consumer were to come to a show such as SAT Expo 85 or Space STTI, what kind of advice would you give that person as to how to approach people, how to approach exhibitors?
How to approach exhibitors? Probably be straightforward. Ask, have a set of questions that you could ask them, either technically or what type, try and get as much information out of an exhibitor as you can that you're interested in from a manufacturing standpoint. Manufacturers can give some technical information that a distributor or a dealer might not be able to give them.
Coming up on Satellite Showtime in Denver.
Want to know more about satellite TV? Then go to the source for product reviews and how-tos
We're on the road and out in space, and sometimes in very cold places, with features and technical reports. It's all in satellite TV. That's only $19.95 for 12 big issues of STV magazine. Call now, 1-800-438-2020, and get this LCD calendar clock free with your subscription. That's 12 big issues of STV magazine and the clock for only $19.95. The number again is 1-800-438-2020. 1-800-438-2020. Call now.
Hi, I'm Peter Beeman, standing in for Joe Kelch with the Caltronics Video Newsletter. I'm reporting today from the Caltronics booth here at the Satellite Expo 85 in Denver, Colorado. And for those of you watching today, you might remember that 6 weeks ago in Las Vegas, I made a special presentation to one of my dealers that was the Dealer of the Year in the Caltronics Rocky Mountain region. At that time, I did not have the plaque. I have it today. So today I would like to make a presentation to Bob Suber from Front Row Center in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I finally have the plaque, and Bob, I'd like to read the plaque. It's for the Caltronics Rocky Mountain region, Dealer of the Year for 1984. It's Bob and Margaret Suber, Front Row Center, Steamboat Springs, Colorado, in recognition of outstanding sales and upholding the highest standards of professional service in the satellite television industry. And Bob, again, I want to congratulate you.
Thank you,
and
Peter.
thank you so much for your support in the last year, and I hope that this year is going to be as good as last year.
Thank you,
Very
Peter.
good. Okay, and now I think Joe Kelch has something for you. So on with the Caltronics Video Newsletter.
Caltronics is happy to be an authorized distributor and service center for the innovative satellite home electronics equipment by Luxor, a name synonymous with high technology. The Luxor 9550 remote control satellite receiver gives you total control over the satellite spectrum. 24 channels can be selected, fine-tuned, then programmed for automatic recall. 4 different audio systems, mono or stereo, can be selected in wide or narrow bandwidth for programming with any channel. A built-in stereo processor for both TV audio or stereo sound only eliminates the necessity for an add-on stereo processor. An RF modulator in the receiver provides easy connection to any TV set. The 9550 is not only a satellite TV receiver, it will feed a hi-fi stereo system with quality audio-only signals. You can also make professional quality VCR recordings via the audio-video baseband outputs. The Luxor 9534 antenna actuator. Now you can have fully automatic satellite selection at your command by remote control. The location of 30 different satellites can be precisely defined and programmed for automatic recall at the touch of a button. The unit is designed to interface with the Luxor 9550 satellite receiver. Introducing a new generation of electronic excellence. Now several TVs throughout your own home can have independent channel selection at the same time from a single antenna. Advanced block conversion plus high performance technology brings you quality pictures. Temperature sensitive components are in the receiver inside the house. A built-in stereo processor for both TV audio and stereo sound only eliminates the necessity for an external add-on stereo processor. The Scantic is packed with state-of-the-art features designed and built to the most exact in European standards, created to expand your video and audio universe into crystal clear reception and virtually unlimited viewing selection. Easy channel selection, 24 programmable channels received through simple digital push-button control. Choose even or odd channels, step up or down at the touch of a button. Precise fine-tuning for each of 24 channels is automatic and programmable. You can also make your own fine-tuning adjustments with a fingertip touch. Feature for feature, Scantic delivers the most versatility and higher quality performance automatically for less.
Hello, this is Dale again in the Tech Corner, and for the next few weeks I'm going to go over the troubleshooting procedures to be used in a general home system. Now, I will break this up into segments. Today I will do the polarization circuit. Next week I will do the LNA. The following week the down converter, and then on to the receiver. Now, as I said, today I will do the polarization circuit. And some symptoms that you will see if you do have a bad polarizer circuit are the inability to get both polarities, both the odds and the evens, the inability to skew or adjust the polarization device, and also possibly a sudden flipping from an odd to an even channel. Okay, for the initial setup, we have here a Chaparral Polarator 1. With the Polarator 1 is shipped this device, which is used in aligning the polarator device so that you will get both polarities as you scan throughout the entire satellite band. Now, the instructions come with this, but I will show you how to do it. You simply slide it on to the polarator motor like this, and on here it says this side toward dish. Now, you'll see that it forms an arrow here. This arrow needs to be in line with your polar axis. The polar axis on our mount is the elevation beam, and every mount has a polar axis. As long as you line this up so that it points in the same direction that your polar axis points in, you will be able to skew enough to get both polarities throughout the entire satellite band. From now, we will now go on to the receiver and check out what we need to check out there in the polarator control circuitry. Now, as I stated earlier, the polarator requires a +5, a control pulse, and the ground to operate properly. Here on the oscilloscope is pictured the pulse signal that is sent from the receiver to the polarator device to control its movement. As you can see, the time span, or the length right here, varies. And this is the actual signal which controls the movement of the probe in the P1. Now, you will not have an oscilloscope with you in the field, but this same signal can be monitored with a voltmeter. And now here at the receiver, I will show you how to measure that with a voltmeter. Okay, now here at the back of the receiver houses the polarator control circuit. And there are 3 connections that must be made to this. There's the ground connection, the +5 volts, and the control pulse. Now here on my multimeter I have the control pulse, and I'm monitoring that. As I adjust the skew, you can see how the level changes. In a typical situation, the control pulse will vary from below 1/10 of a volt, as you see here with 0.06 of a volt, upwards to as high as 0.9 of a volt. On this particular unit, I'm only getting about 6 to 7/10 of a volt. But as you adjust the skew, the reading you obtain on your voltmeter should vary as you adjust and as you skew. The other thing to monitor at the receiver is your +5 volts. Now, I would first, if you're having polarity problems, disconnect the wiring and take the following 2 readings. Check your +5 volts to see that it is there. Then check your pulse signal and adjust the skew to see that it does vary as you adjust the skew. If those 2 signals are there and the pulse varies as you adjust the skew, then your polarator control circuitry is in fact good. At this point, I would reconnect the wiring and again take your readings. Now, if you have a great variance in the readings with the wires connected, you know that you do have a problem further on down the line. So again, check your connections or check your readings here with the wires disconnected to prove that the control circuitry is good. Then reconnect the wires and again check them. The next point you want to check is at the other end of the wiring located out at the dish. Okay, here at the other end of the system, you have your polarator device and the other end of the wiring. Now, the first thing I would do is disconnect your wiring. And again, take the readings that we did inside the house at the receiver. Now, first, you check your plus 5 volts, see that it's getting here. You also check your pulse signal and adjust the skew and make sure that the readings are getting out here. Now, if at this point you do not have your plus 5 volts or your control pulse signal is not varying or is not getting there like it should be, then you do have a problem in the wiring, because we knew at the input to the wiring the signal was good. If you get out here and the signal is not making it, the only thing that could be wrong is the wiring. So you check your readings with the wiring disconnected. If you get the good readings at this point, you reconnect it to the polarator device and again take your readings. Okay, at this time we will reconnect to the polarator device. Connect your pulse signal, which is the white wire, the plus 5 volts, which will be the red wire, and the ground, which will be the black wire. Okay, now we take the readings all over again. You go to your plus 5 volts and check that. And indeed, you will see that we do have the plus 5 volts. We then go to the pulse signal and adjust the skew and see that, in fact, the reading does vary. And you can also see that the probe, the antenna of the system, is moving. Now, if at this point you reconnect the wiring to the polarator and all of a sudden your correct readings disappear, you can rest assured that you do have a bad polarator 1 motor. And it's a simple matter of 4 screws to replace a polarator motor. If you reconnect the wiring to the polarator and all the readings are still there and good, then the unit should function, as it does right here, you can see. Now that's basically how to troubleshoot the polarator circuitry using just a voltmeter. Again, check your readings at the back of the receiver without the wires connected. Do this to ensure that the polarator control circuit is working. Then reconnect the wiring and check out at the other end of the wiring. If you have a correct input but you do not have the correct output at the other end of the wiring, then your wiring is bad. Now, if the readings are making it all the way through the wire and you reconnect it to the polarator and you're getting false readings, then you can rest assured that your P1 motor is bad. If the readings do stay the same, then your polarator circuit should be operating properly. Next week I'm going to go over how to troubleshoot the LNA, and then from there to the down converter and receiver. Until then, this is Dale in the Tech Corner.
The incomparable Trans 10 antenna with a limited 5-year warranty, the ideal antenna for your home. State-of-the-art quality and performance with a price that makes it affordable for everyone. That's the reason the new Trans 10 antenna is the most sought-after dish on the market. Space-age technology coupled with manufacturing know-how assures uniformity of quality throughout every facet of the fabricating process. The trans, which stands for transparent, is exactly that, aesthetically eye-appealing. The Trans 10 blends so well with its surroundings, you'll hardly know it's there. The reality of its presence is the quality satellite pictures that you'll be receiving with your own Trans 10 antenna by Caltronics. Test results conducted by McDonnell Douglas Corporation state this: the Trans 10 will work with the FCC proposed 2-degree spacing. The performance of this antenna is equal to or better than that of other antennas of similar size and construction. Now let's look more closely at the Trans 10. The extra strength hub is parabolically formed to maximize signal strength. The hub is engineered of 3/16-inch prime steel and measures a solid 14.5 inches in diameter. The ribs are made of superior strength tubular 16-gauge steel encased in polytrans vinyl, especially formulated for the satellite industry. The end result? Solid strength, at the same time minimizing signal with no gaps in the reflective area. It's a distinct advantage over other mesh designs. High gain means better performance. The Trans 10 has an outer rim of rigid extruded aluminum anchored securely to the ribs and the center hub to form a solid framework for the panels. The mesh panels are of expanded flattened aluminum with a 1.040 thickness and a 0.045 strand width. The mesh and all exposed frame parts have a baked acrylic thermoset finish. All antenna hardware is plated for weather protection. The Trans 10 with its 10-foot diameter is designed for maximum gain, a focal length of 44 3/4 inches, an FD ratio of 0.385. The Trans 10 is UPS shippable anywhere in the United States with a shipping weight of 190 pounds. Without a doubt, the Trans 10 by Qualtronics is the front runner in the industry, the ultimate mesh antenna design because of its quality, performance, and eye appeal.
Hello again, I'm Peter Beeman with Qualtronics Video Newsletter. We're coming from our booth at the SAT Expo 85 here in Denver, Colorado. With me today is Jim Van Diest from National CompuSat in Prairie View, Kansas. Jim's address and phone number has been missing from our rolling list at the end of our show of our Trans 10 distributors, and today I wanted everyone to meet Jim and get to know a little bit about Jim. Jim, in your experience so far with the Trans 10 antenna, what has your dealer response been in the Kansas area?
It's been very good for performance, for durability, and for general appearance.
Great. And the dealer response has been very favorable, and everyone's been happy with the pictures, which is always the thing that we worry about the most.
Yes, the picture's good, and everybody likes the warranty.
Great, great. Well, with Qualtronics, we like to stand behind our product, and I'm happy to see that your dealers are happy. So I hope now that everyone that's watching knows who Jim Van Diest is at National CompuSat in Prairie View, Kansas. And I want to thank you so much, Jim, for stopping by and saying hello today.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Last week, Joe Kelch mentioned a contest we're having.
Just look at your Trans 10 antenna mount to see what the number on it is. If the number is 2342, you're the winner of an attractive KTI windbreaker with our compliments. If your Trans 10 antenna mount number is 2342, send a postcard to Calltronics Video Newsletter, Highway 14 East, Richland Center, Wisconsin 53581. On the postcard, put your name and address and the winning number, along with the other words on the antenna mount decal. You will be the winner. Well, that's it for this evening's Calltronics Video Newsletter. I want to thank you all for joining us at our booth here at the SAT Expo in '85 in Denver, Colorado. This is Peter Beeman saying so long, and thanks so much for watching. Next week, Joe Kelch will be back with more of Calltronics Video Newsletter. Goodbye now.
What was accomplished during SAT Expo '85? I spoke with Sir Lloyd Covens of Channel Guide. Lloyd, according to you, what do you think was the highlight of SAT Expo '85?
I think we had, in our third year, a real marketplace of ideas and a marketplace of exhibitors and business. Probably the highlight, I think, was the news following on that HBO Cinemax had announced a plan to serve the backyard earth station market. And the convention was really abuzz with details on that as far as who would handle what, encryption, and the whole works. We had an appearance by the Vice President of Telecommunications, Inc. for 2 separate days, and he was very illuminative on what he sees for the future of serving the backyard earth station market.
Mm-hmm. How many people came here?
We had 1,120 paying people and a couple of hundred freeloaders.
Now, did you learn anything this year that you plan to use in the future?
I think people have a flexibility built in when you're in the earth station business. You know how much change, what you can rely on is things will change. And we learned this year that if there's a group of people interested in a subject, we had one panel where the audience actually took over the panel for the panelists. We learned to bring in people you wouldn't normally associate with a satellite show. For instance, people in the cable industry, major players who are multiple system operators. The satellite repair and retrieval session was very informative with astronaut Robert Crippen. And I think people that are actually in control of the satellites as far as transponder space were also here and got to share their views on how they think the market should develop on a program source basis.
What month will SAT Expo '86 be held?
1 year from today. We will be starting 1 day later on May 14th. We have a long-term contract with the Sheraton here in Denver, and we will be here each May through 1989.
This concludes this evening's Satellite Showtime from SAT Expo '85. If you have any comments about our program or you just want to tell us that you're watching, call us at one of these numbers, 800-826-5285 or 608-647-4246 or 608-647-8902. And don't forget about a show that's coming up in Cincinnati, May 31st, June 1st, and June 2nd. It's the Midwest Satellite Dish Energy Conservation Expo. Your contact person for that show is Joyce Jensen. Her number is 602-581-0188. Next week, we have a special program in store for you. Starting o'clock Eastern, 2 hours before our regularly scheduled Satellite Showtime, we'll bring you Satellite Preview '85, our 2-hour special panel discussion, co-sponsored by Luxor and Calltronics. Satellite industry, and time our regular program will follow that special panel discussion. Until next week, good night.